Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove and I'm joined by a man who's spending his last day in Orlando for a little while. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
I'm spending my last day in Orlando for a little while. That's correct, I guess. I don't plan to be back in Orlando anytime soon. That is true.
There's no more All-Star games to come to.
There's not.
And
there's Disney,
you won't be visiting the Disney resorts or the Universal resorts.
Probably not.
Or
Probably
the Speedboat Museum.
Plus, I'm Disneyland all the way.
Oh, okay. Is that the California one?
Yes.
I so often do not know which one is which.
I went to Disneyland when I was like 8 years old. That is what I have to say about that one. Yeah, I don't know that one either, really.
So we are in our hotel room. We're waiting to get kicked out. We have just enough time to record a show.
Yes, exactly. We're in our bunker. We're hoping no one finds us.
Yeah.
We're recording this quickly. Yes.
No housekeeping, please.
We have a helpful amount of construction in the background, which hopefully isn't audible on mic, but if it is, hopefully we've removed it in post-production.
Yeah,
because we're just that good.
If you can't hear it, we're audio geniuses.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you can, we're not.
Correct.
So we're going to answer listener questions today, but we're also going to talk MLS All-Star.
This is accurate.
Because we were there for the All-Star game at is it Exploria Stadium? Yes, Orlando Stadium. MLS All-Stars versus Atletico Madrid.
Local, I think, radio reporter Austin was sitting next to us and helpfully informed me of different things. Like he warned me in advance during the national anthem that when it gets to the part of the national anthem where they sing Knight, the entire crowd would yell Knights, because I guess that's like Central Florida University is the Knights, and a bunch of Orlando fans.
That was?
Yes.
Okay.
There was that one, and there was one more thing. Oh, and he helpfully informed me that Exploria, which I asked, like, is that like a travel site? He's like, no,
it's a resort, right?
It's a timeshare company.
Is it
Yes.
really?
Yes.
Ooh, MLS. Do you think MLS could be a bit more judicious in their sponsor choices?
I mean, is this a listener question? Because if so,
it's a Daryl question.
I will drag out my answer to just be yes. Is that helpful? Is that good?
I mean, I long for the day where MLS doesn't have to deal with, Herbalife, etc. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I'll put it this way. You and I you more than me, I would say, are slightly discerning in the sponsors we take, or more specifically, the sponsors we don't take. I feel like MLS doesn't necessarily have that same level of like, no, this is kind of a bad look for our product.
Yeah. So MLS, if you want less money coming in, hire me.
That's why when we were asked to advertise for heroin, Daryl was like, I just don't think that's a good idea. I don't think we should maybe be doing that
bad
one.
PR.
It's really
bad
fun,
PR.
though. Really fun.
Taylor Rockwell. Did not think we would start like this. No. I think the Cooligans have had a bad influence on you.
That's what Central Florida has done to me, Daryl.
All right, let's talk All-Star game.
Yeah.
Atletico won 3-0.
Central Florida would be meth. But yeah.
Looked the best team by a distance, right? The All-Stars were really, really outclassed, as you kind of expect to be when you're a team that's literally never played together before.
Yeah, I mean, I think that definitely does not help. That it's guys who, and you could see it at times, both players not quite being familiar with where they needed to be. Yeah. But there was that moment, I think, in the first half definitely in the first half, when Graham Zusi got dispossessed yet again and turned and yelled at Carlos Vela.
He had a rough night, right?
He did, but he yelled at Carlos Vela to you got to drop in, you got to show support, and Carlos Vela gave him a look that from 50 yards away where we were, you could still see the come on, man, you know what this is. I'm not sprinting back 20 yards. You of all people
should know. You've been in MLS forever. You should know what the All-Star game is about. Did you? I want to say, not this makes me Nostradamus or anything, but I kind of saw this coming. Yeah. Because Atletico is such a system team, and Diego Simeone is not going to send them out and not play the system. And a team with a system against a team who've literally never played together before. It doesn't matter if you got Zlatan or Rooney or Vela or whoever. The team with the system wins every single time.
I would agree with that, and then I would advance it further to say that it was kind of the old narrative that often isn't the case, but in this case was that when you play the reserve team, which is what Atleti did, they
really did, right?
They started essentially a complete second string, brought in the first string with 30 minutes to go.
Yeah, but then the first string really turned it on.
Yeah,
right?
That's true. But there's that narrative of actually, when you bring in the young reserve players who are trying to prove that they belong and should be in the squad, you're going to get a more dedicated performance than if you had started that kind of first 11 who are yo, I'm trying not to get hurt. I'm trying not to get into it. This is preseason. I'm just having fun. It's 100,000 degrees and it's raining. But the second string are really going to go for it. And I think you could see that in the goal, that when Llorente scores, they mob him. It's a big celebration in a way that I don't think was about we finally broke through the MLS All-Star resistance. I think it was more so yeah, great. This young guy who we've just signed for 30-something million pounds from Real Madrid has scored a goal. And he's kind of probably been working towards first team or peripheral first team, and now he's gotten a goal for himself.
Do you mind if we talk a little bit about our media experience?
Sure.
Because we are media. We have media access semi-regularly, but we're not covering a game every weekend kind of media, right? So it was a reminder to me the man of the match voting, the MVP voting, just how many people in the media don't really put a lot of thought into it, because Llorente won MVP based on the vote. They essentially ask all the media for a vote. I think everyone was like, well, he scored the goal, so he's MVP. And I just feel like it's a little lazy.
I mean, I think, again, you've got to remember that this is an All-Star game. And it was, I would argue, not a very good, at least first half of an All-Star game. They asked us for our votes, 60 minutes, 70 minutes into the game?
Yeah,
so before João Felix comes on, before Diego Costa comes on.
Before Felix comes on and gets the goal of the game.
Yes.
And an assist.
Exactly. So I think you've got to kind of remember that and know that it's a second string Atleti team that people aren't as familiar with. The MLS All-Stars, none of them were getting MVP. So it's sort of come down to who were the guys who kind of impressed for Atleti, and it's easy to say the goal scorer in this context.
That's for me, though. It's just too easy.
Yeah, but I mean, who you voted for who?
Vitolo.
Right.
I thought he was really impressive in the first half. Because I was watching the game and looking at what was happening.
You were. You talked to Jason Davis plenty. You had your moments
with my mouth. My eyes are on the game.
I think that this is an argument that you and I can have and disagree on. But I think that there's also an argument that maybe you paid attention to Vitolo because you found him interesting. Other people maybe were focused on other aspects of the game, didn't necessarily focus on the one playmaker who's a second stringer in the first half.
Yeah. All right. I mean, that's I don't disagree with that.
And I say this again because I voted for Llorente. I think it's also the case.
Did you?
I think. Oh yeah. But
why? Why? Just because he scored the goal?
Basically. Yeah. I mean, because I thought it was a good goal. I enjoyed his performance. His attacking runs were fine. Everything that you would want from a striker were good. It really just came down to nobody really stood out to me in that regard. Certainly not an All-Star. So yeah, I'll go with the guy who scored a goal because it's an All-Star game and it doesn't really matter that much.
That is the big secret of the All-Star game,
yes.
Right? The actual result and the performance and all that doesn't matter. It's about the spectacle, right? It's about fireworks before the game.
Yes.
That's that kind of game.
Many fireworks, including one that backfired and kind of launched out of the field.
I thought we were in trouble for a second.
There were some moments because I don't know what the silver reflective aluminum-y things were that they pulled out.
Yeah.
But there's a decent chance that they were rayon or something that is very flammable. On a firework hitting that thing, suddenly it's a very different type of display.
Anything else to say about the All-Star game before we move on to listener questions?
Yeah, I think the other thing that's really kind of a big takeaway for me is that I think a lot of the All-Star game, we talked about this with the Cooligans, that it's a lot of sponsors and you're kind of emphasizing the commercial aspect and it's
the All-Star game sponsored by Target, presented by Target.
Exactly. But I think that one of my big takeaways,
a sponsor I approve of, by the way. I actually do happily shop at Target.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes. It's not
it's not Herbalife.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no pyramids in Target.
There's not. Maybe there are. But I think the big takeaway for me from the skills competition and from the All-Star game is I think a lot of it is geared towards pulling in new fans. I really think that.
Really?
Because All-Star games historically, think about the NBA All-Star game and the dunk contest and the MLB All-Star game. I think that's what... I will watch the dunk contest. I don't watch regular NBC or NBA
I'll watch
games.
the dunk contest. I'm not even a big basketball fan, but I'll watch that.
And I'll watch the NHL All-Star game just because I think it will be interesting. It's the best players. And I think you can pull in neutrals or people who might be peripherally interested by it's this Spanish team who are very good and they just signed this young kid for a lot of money. Maybe that, but mostly it's these big-name players that that you've heard about, you get to watch them. And so the skills competition, we felt like it dragged at times and kind of took a long time to transition and even Nani was my muscles were cold. And yet, for people who watched it at home, it was awesome because they kind of cut it and moved it along and added interviews that you could see on the screen. And I think for the All-Star game itself, you had a couple different players mic'd up. And
we didn't really get to experience that, apart from seeing Brad Guzan have to... I think, did Walker Zimmerman help him put it back in on a corner kick because his earpiece fell out?
I asked him this. I thought it was Chara. It was not. I forget who it was. It was somebody else helped him put it back in.
Okay.
I should remember, but I don't. Oh, it was Kamar Lawrence. Kamar Lawrence put it back in is what Guzan said. But I think Jonathan Tannenwald tweeted that John Strong, because they were booing him the whole time because he's Atlanta. It was Orlando. And John Strong asked, what did you do to these people? And he responded, I think you know, or something like that. or do you have to ask? But so those things I think are really interesting to viewers at home because suddenly you're getting to talk to players on the field and you're getting this really interactive experience and fireworks and everything. And I think it comes across for neutrals as a more exciting event. Not to say it wasn't exciting in person, but just that those little things built for a TV audience, I think are specifically built for a TV audience.
So you have the mindset, and I think I am of the mindset, that for All-Star games, it's good to just embrace the non-competitiveness of it and just go for some novelty. Have some weird stuff happen.
Yeah, because I grabbed some audio.
Have 3 keepers play 30 minutes each.
Yeah, there you go.
By the way, poor Nick Romando. Probably his final ever All-Star game because he's retiring. But he's the one that has to face, essentially... Because Atletico, halfway through the second half, pretty much when Romando comes in, they subbed in their entire first 11. It's like, here comes Diego Costa and Koke and Felix and Saul and the whole crew is coming.
It was literally their first 11. Like, Jan Oblak comes in and, like... I think
it on master, right? It was almost the whole team.
I think, like, one time he, like, chested it down and dribbled past somebody. Another time he, like, cut past Chris Wondolowski. It was these guys are maybe next level, slightly next level. But like I grabbed some audio talking to Paxton Pomacall afterwards. Okay. Maybe we'll have that on a show at some point. We'll see. Right. Certainly not this one. Time is of the essence. But I would say, like, I asked him sort of, like, tactical, the thing that you spotted about how he kept finding pockets of space that we always really enjoy. I asked him about, like, how he does that. Is that a thing he's coached to do?
Oh, I want to hear this audio now.
Hey, we will. But I do think that it was a sort of, like, it took him a second. And I don't think it's because it was a particularly difficult question, but because I think a lot of the other questions were, like, how does it feel to play in an All-Star game? Was it fun playing against it? Like, again, embracing, I don't think I did a very good job of embracing the relaxed atmosphere of an All-Star game.
We're nerds, right?
There is that. Yes. I did ask Guzan about the earpiece as well, and I loved his response of, like, nah, it wasn't really a big deal. And then when Charlie Boehm, I think, asked him, like, if he thinks it'll persist, I think his answer was, if there's a way that they can make money off of it, it will definitely persist. So I expect that to be sponsored at the next All-Star game.
Beats by Dre.
Yes, exactly.
Final thing I want to talk about, unless you've got anything else, P.T. Martinez.
Oh,
his nightmare 2019 continued when he subbed in the second half. He had 3 chances and he scored 3 points on all of them.
Yeah. I mean, I think from our angle he may have put it wide of the goal and over as well. So maybe he didn't even get the 3 points. Yeah, I mean, it was
missed field goal attempt from P.T. Martinez.
Yes, and it was not a very great performance from a player who has had an up and down traumatic sort of season, I think. And it was interesting to see the two narratives because Orlando-based reporters were sort of like, this is who you spent your money on. Like, this guy, he's got to mature. He's got to get better if he wants to go. I saw that from a lot of, like, neutrals online as well.
Yeah.
Contrasting that with Atlanta reporters, Atlanta fans who I think were a bit more like, this is like an extension of the kind of funk that he's in from the situation with the team, and he kind of couldn't get in rhythm. He talked about that after the game as well, about how, like, it just kind of wouldn't come off. He kind of said it, my Spanish is not very good, but it wasn't a dejected answer. It was just more of a, like, yeah, man, I don't know. Like, it just wasn't happening. Like, and I think he wanted it. I think he really wanted to get a goal and to kind of
it's his first All-Star game, right?
Yeah.
So probably his first experience of this whole thing.
Yeah, but, like, I think also, like, more, yes, that's definitely true, but it's also, like, you're surrounded by, like, you know, stars to one degree or another when it comes to Major League Soccer, and then you're playing against Atleti, and that's a team that you know, and if you're like an up-and-coming South American who has visions of playing in Europe, you probably want to do something and to,
that's true.
You know, shank 3 shots.
That's the type of team you would probably like to sign for.
Yes. So that was the downer for Atlanta fans. My final takeaway was, I tweeted about this, but LGP, I did get to talk to him a little bit as well after the game, and I wanted to ask about Diego Costa, because Costa comes in and he did all the Diego Costa things we know and love. There's battling, there's shoving, there's a scratch on Bastian Schweinsteiger. He had a big scratch on his chest that I'm not sure if that came from Diego Costa.
He went down for a couple penalty appeals.
He did, but he gets into it with LGP. At one point, LGP ends up getting the ball, and like it didn't seem like they were, the best of friends on the field. It cemented everything we've heard about Diego Costa, which is that, first of all, LGP emphasized, I got the ball. So that was the important thing. But then he from under the chair he was sitting in, he like pulled up Costa's jersey. That they like swapped jerseys after the game. He said he was like, I think he called him a sweetheart. Like he said he's very sweet, he's a very nice guy, and it was like
I've heard off the field he's a very, very nice man.
Yeah, and I think as soon as the game goes, he switches back into like, hey man, how you doing?
Yeah. Sorry about all the stuff I did.
Exactly.
But for LGP, never played in Europe, probably, I don't know, has ambitions to go there at some point. It's a nice little test, right? To see LGP versus Diego Costa and to be like, yeah, he can handle that.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly. It also was my final thing. It was
I believe you.
It was a sad reminder of like the close knit nature of the Mexican national team. That Hector Herrera was in the locker room, like talking to Jonathan Dos Santos and Carlos Vela after the game, and they were all just like laughing and chatting and kind of ignoring reporters in order to just like do their own thing. But it did make me wonder, like, Are you guys national team players? Are they like going out of their way to go into the other locker room and like hang out for a bit after a game? I hope so.
Maybe.
But it was just sort of like, I know for sure that those three guys were, and I guess that's what I mean. It's just sort of like, oh, is this why? Is this why you all are so good? Because you're all friends and you like each other? I see what's happening here.
All right, do you have any final thoughts on the MLS All-Star game? All right, before we talk listener questions, today's show is sponsored by Manscaped, the #1 men's below-the-belt grooming tool.
It is, and I would say we got a number of different Manscaped products sent to us. There is, I have to try to kind of like beat around the bush on this one, not literally, because I am a more private person than these ads might indicate. So it's why I get uncomfortable even having these conversations. But I would say they sent us a sort of like deodorant for your downstairs parts, which has come in handy in Orlando because it's been hot and humid and it is oppressive at times, and having a product that is designed to keep things from like being sticky and sweaty and gross is a very welcome relief.
So it's called a deodorant?
It's called a like crop revitalizer or something like that.
I see. The crop preserver, according to the copy I have.
There we go.
Anti-chafing deodorant for down there. For down there. So Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Because apart from the deodorant that we talked about, the crop preserver, there is the trimmer, I guess you would call it. The lawnmower, right? The lawnmower 2.0.
The lawnmower 2.0.
Yeah.
Daryl, you do not have one of those, right?
No, they sent us one
and
asked us to try it and talk about it. And we were like, you know there's two of us, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think the only solution is next time we're with the Cooligans, we'll have Alexis use it on you. Does that work? And then we can see... We'll see if it works. And I think he'd probably be down for that one. I think it'd be a fun, they're all about the, Instagram Live stuff, so we could film it as well. What more could we ask for?
Lovely.
So it doesn't sound like you're so excited about that possibility. But one thing that I think is worth remembering, as they note here, you don't use the same trimmer on your face as you do for your downstairs parts, because that's just nasty.
You shouldn't. At the very least, you shouldn't.
You shouldn't. But then you end up, what ends up happening, very few people are going out and buying, a brand new beard trimmer to then use on their downstairs area is what we're going to keep calling it. Their bathing suit parts. And so you end up using basically your old trimmer is most often what happens, and then you're using the thing that's
you send the reserves in.
Yeah, exactly. But then you're
the first half Atletico team.
See, exactly. But then you're using the ones that are unproven or sort of erratic or old and beaten up. You don't want that. But with the Manscaped one, it's just it's a compact little thing. Yeah. It's easy to travel with if you need to, but it's a nice new thing that doesn't snag, doesn't have it cause any problems. It's nice and easy, simple to use.
Also, you get 20% off and free shipping if you use the code TSS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off, free shipping at manscaped.com with the code TSS.
That's right. So once again, you can get 20% off and free shipping with the code TSS at manscaped.com.
The link will be in the show notes.
So says Daryl. We'll see.
Also in the show notes will be the link you can click to ask us listener questions.
Ooh, we've got listener questions, do we?
We do. We actually have loads. We're going to sort of randomly select listener questions from right in front of us.
What could go wrong?
I'm going to make it easy and just go the first one on the list here.
That makes sense.
It's from Alexander King. Alexander asks, where did the term soccer come from? And I've got to be honest,
I don't have an answer for this one. I really don't. I think what I would recommend is that Alexander go out and find a podcast that explains terms and core concepts of soccer in a succinct but still entertaining and funny sort of way.
Yeah, some sort of recently released fresh podcast from experienced podcasters that really gets into details on stuff like this. We are, of course, talking about our new show, Soccer 101. Soccer 101. We've got to say thank you to everybody who helped us with the launch. We rocketed up the iTunes charts. We were, somewhat briefly... Top 50 in all podcasts. We were number 47 for a nice little while.
In your face, Ira Glass.
We were above Ira Glass.
We knocked him off?
Yeah.
It's a slightly less...
I'm not sure it's long enough for him to notice, but we did.
No. It's a slightly less frightening competitor than when we were trying to knock off the Stone Cold podcast in 2014, I believe it was.
The vengeance would be less savage from Ira Glass.
You never know. I feel like maybe he has that quiet rage that can come out and he ends up committing atrocities. But yes, to answer Alexander's question, we do go in more in depth on Soccer 101, on this question, on many other kind of core concepts, core topics.
We are going to give Alexander at least the brief answer here, right?
Yeah, the brief answer is football, association football. That's the kind of technical terminology for it. Association, the abbreviation comes from that. Soccer, SOC, that's where it comes from.
The middle syllable, essentially, right? Yeah, soccer. And then the slightly longer explanation, there was also rugby football. That's why there was association football and rugby football. You know, rugby like we play over there. There was rugger and soccer.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that we talk about in 101. The final point I'll say on this one is just that, like, we didn't just make up soccer here in the United States. That's not just that we were like, oh, we're going to be different. It was what it was called at one point in England. So if anything, we're just the traditionalist hipsters who care about the core of the beauty of the sport. We care about the spirit of the game, Daryl.
That's definitely
You just care about football.
And obviously, if you go listen to Soccer 101, our new show, which we really hope you will support, I think most TSS listeners have gone and listened to it based on the download numbers, but some of you haven't. We know who you are. Please go and listen to Soccer 101. We get into a lot more detail on this question. We'll even find out why football is called football if you go listen to that show. It's not why you think.
It's not. It's not at all. Here's the problem with doing a show in which we talk about like international players and coaches and teams is that I then take that to my pronunciation of names because I was about to pronounce our next listener questioner, Jed Voorhoff, because I was like, oh, it's probably a Dutch name. It's Jed. It's Jed. It's Jed Voorhoff.
He might be Dutch.
Jed asks, what's the benefit of having 2 transfer windows as opposed to just 1 transfer deadline like with other sports?
So do other sports have one, like American sports have one like trade deadline?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. And then just if anyone really needs the basics on this, in Europe, there's the summer transfer window, which we're in the middle of right now, which will close usually like end of August, right? Like early September. And then there's the winter transfer window, the January transfer window, where you can make transfers throughout January. Outside of that, you cannot. So the question is, what's the benefit? The benefit is if you get it wrong in the summer for the start of the season, January is your chance to make amends. Right?
Yeah, but I think what Jed is maybe getting at is the idea that like if you have a whole half of a season, because that's usually what it is. It's like not even necessarily half, but you like the win, like you can make trades up until a certain point, like midway-ish through the season. So if you've made a mistake in the summer, you can correct it a month into the season as opposed to like, oh, the window's closed and now we've got to deal with that until January. And in January, we only have 1 month. I think his question is maybe getting at like, why don't they have just a 4-month period, half of the season where you can sign players and then that's it for the rest of the time?
So my guess, like for the history of why it happened is there used to be no transfer window. It used to be just open all the time. You could just sign players anytime you liked. And honestly, it was kind of exciting. I remember being in high school and Andy Cole was the big star for Newcastle United, scoring a load of goals. And, you know, Newcastle were like challenging Manchester United's dominance. And someone went home and like went on we used to have a thing called teletext. Did you ever get that? It was literally like text news pages that would be on your TV. One of our friends went home for lunch, which most people don't at high school, obviously, right? And found out by looking at teletext that Andy Cole had gone to Manchester United for £7 million. Wow. Plus Keith Gillespie, I think. But there's this crazy thing where just in the middle of the season...
They give away Gillespie?
In the middle of the season, just random transfers could happen. And it was kind of exciting. So, but it comes from a place where transfers used to happen all the time. So I think when they started to impose... essentially the opposite of windows of no transfers, they had to at least give them an opportunity to reinforce mid-season. Because teams were used to reinforcing mid-season. So that's why.
But yes, it is. But I think then also like why you only want specific periods. One, like basically before the season starts roughly, and then one like corresponding with like a winter break midpoint sort of time is I think that you can't then... undermine an opponent. If you're in a title race and you're Man City, say like if we like combine worlds and there's like a Man City Leicester title race, there's an argument to be made that if Man City had gone out and signed Jamie Vardy or N'Golo Kante that season, do Leicester have the rest of the season that they had? Probably not.
No, I mean, this is what used to happen. Literally, I'm talking about Man United signed Andy Cole. The same thing happened when Aston Villa were doing really well in like 98?
Yeah.
Alex Ferguson just went, all right, well, we'll just buy Dwight York.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, like, and if you're Leicester, like, yes, you might try to hold on to your players, but if you sign N'Golo Kante for not much money, as they did, and then Man City offer you £80 million, winning the Premier League is probably worth £80 million or £100 million for Man City. And for Leicester, like not winning the Premier League but still getting £100 million is worth it. And so I think like you can have big teams undermine that way, but you can also have big teams then just constantly strengthen. If you know how many times do we talk about like, oh, Tottenham are in an injury crisis or Man City are struggling because they don't have a Fernandinho replacement, but if you're able to just go out and sign a replacement the next day, like you're never really going to have to deal with injuries. It just kind of allows you to constantly reinforce and spend monies and basically pilfer smaller teams who can't compete financially.
And then, so bigger picture for Jed's question, like I mentioned, like this happened, I think historically, because you used to be able to reinforce all the time, so they wanted to give them that mid-season opportunity to reinforce.
Yeah.
With American sports, can I assume that when the leagues were set up, they were just already set up like from the very start with, okay, and the trade deadline is here?
I believe so, yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's evolved over time, as have all sports, but yes, I think they all kind of, similar to why Major League Soccer mimics the All-Star game format, I think they all set up with a similar structure, generally speaking.
All right, I think we should answer one more listener question before the next ad break.
What you got?
And I would like to answer Ryan Downey's question. Ryan Downey asks, would you rather manage a top club team or a top international team, and why?
It is a more difficult question than I expected.
It is, right?
Because
it's a good question. I love this question.
I think it is probably I think it's fair to say it is significantly less stressful to manage an international team than a club team.
Depends which one and how things are going.
The problem, though, is that
try being an England manager that's not doing well.
Very true. The problem, but that gets to my point, though, is like basically, I used to be jealous of like, man, being a national team manager would be great. You work like 2 months out of the year, and the rest of the time you're just traveling around the world watching soccer to see if your players are doing well in the like far-flung areas that they're operating in. But then you have to bring those players together from far-flung corners of the world and bring them together and get them playing a system and get them all on the same page and bring together a bunch of disparate personalities to operate as a team in a month or 2 weeks or 1 week. And that's a big challenge, and it requires a certain type of disposition and personality and an ability to communicate. And if you're a perfectionist who wants everybody to play a certain way, you literally can't do that. And so I think it would be like potentially more fun to be a national team manager because of all the things you get to do outside of coaching, but it would be incredibly stressful, and especially if it doesn't go well. Whereas as a club manager, you have the kind of ability to day-to-day like get to know your players, and you know what their quirks are and what they like and what they don't like and who likes who and how to keep those two apart and how to keep those two together and how to get everybody playing the same system. And you have so much more time to be able to do that. That like then it's
time with the players,
time with the club, time working on tactics, all that type of thing. I think in the end, I'd probably still want to be an international manager just because...
Just make the case for club manager and then say, do you want to be an international manager?
Yeah, but but because I think when it comes down to it, it'd be more fun to be able to manage at a World Cup. I think that would be...
So the ultimate prize is much, much bigger.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to the World Cup in '94. That's it. Like I went to one game then.
You're the Bulgaria coach, right?
Yeah, it didn't go well. But no, I would like to go to that because of I want to go to another World Cup, maybe not the next one, because of the spectacle of it and the idea of managing and that feeling of like you're leading your country to victory or not potentially. That would be, it's a very alluring, intoxicating idea, even if it means having to go coach in like after, I don't know, a torrential downpour in Honduras.
I'm all in on international management. I think it would be glorious. I would absolutely love it. And honestly, too, some of the reasons you described like in favour of club management are the reasons I wouldn't want to do it. I wouldn't like to have to go to the same training ground every day at 8 a.m. You know what I mean? Yeah. I like the idea of there's only one or two games. That does not
surprise me.
Yeah, I don't like a routine.
No,
right?
you don't.
Yeah, so I love the idea of... I also like the idea of there's a couple games every month or two, and you have a long build up to it, and you can put a lot of thought into it. And in the meantime, you can travel around. And say, if I'm the US coach now, I'm thinking, I should book some tickets to Amsterdam, go take a look at Sergino Dest. You know what I'm saying? You get to travel around a lot more. And I love it. Partly this is, and I'm really imagining this as if I was a professional.
You just blown the doors off of something for me, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I don't want to interrupt you, so I want you to keep talking about Sergino Dest for a moment.
I've done a little bit of coaching with you. I much more enjoy. I enjoy coaching. Yeah, but I much more enjoy watching and analysing, which is a lot of what we do on the Total Soccer Show. And that's a lot of what international managers do, right? I always am fascinated when I see, say, Gareth Southgate going to watch Leicester versus Burnley because he's there to see a specific player. And I love the idea of him thinking, okay, I'm watching this, I'm analysing this, I'm thinking about, like, what does this player do for me? You know what I'm saying? Like, what does Harry Maguire do for me?
Yeah.
So I would love the idea of going and doing that all the time. Yeah.
But I think, so I agree. So we're on the same page then, international.
And the idea of preparing for one opponent, right? If you've got a big game coming up against Mexico, I love that I would have, like, 3 weeks to watch Mexico tape and really think about Mexico instead of just game on top of game on top of game, and it just keeps coming and we're playing Wednesday, Saturday, and oh no, everyone's tired. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I would find that sort of, it would wear me down essentially.
Honestly, I think what would wear you down more, and this is what you kind of said that blew my mind, is all the stuff that coaches have to do now that we hear about coaches getting like annoyed about, and
like press conference stuff. Or?
No, like preseason tours of like North America and Australia, like that exact. See the face you just made. Like it's the face you would make. Is that if Total Soccer Show had corporate sponsors that required you to be at a meeting at 8 a.m. like here at All-Star, you would. Listeners, I'm saying like Daryl specifically. I would not like it. Daryl would hate that because being told to be in a place. Why did you
sign that deal with Herbalife?
Exactly. being told to be in a place to do a corporate-y thing that requires you to be a little bit phony is not a thing that you want to do. And I think about if you're a Premier League manager, if you're a manager of a big club like Man City, Chelsea, Liverpool, whatever. And now instead of getting
Ed Woodward's making you do it.
Exactly. That's the thing. Is like instead of getting to coach your team and run practice and do training, you are used to having basically the complete autonomy. Yes, you have to answer to the board. That's pretty much it. And even then, a lot of times you kind of don't. But now all of a sudden you have to go like sit with the CEO of Chevrolet and talk about how important that partnership is. And or probably not even the CEO. You're like with like a vice president somewhere down the line. Like
VP of branding.
It would be really obnoxious and annoying. And you'd be like, no, I have other things to do. I don't want to talk about tires.
Got to sign a defensive midfielder.
Exactly.
We need to bid $400 million for Harry Maguire.
Okay, let's talk about.
I would be pulling my hair out.
There we are. I see what you did there. I appreciate you getting us away from Man United making stupid signings to talk instead about a useful product. Hims, a wellness brand for men. 4hims.com is a one-stop shop for hair loss, skincare, and sexual wellness for men.
We are talking today specifically about men losing their hair. 66% of men lose their hair by age 35, more so if they're having to go to corporate sponsor events.
This is true. I did notice a few players at the All-Star game suddenly had shaved heads. And, and I always wonder when you go the abrupt...
Is that a Florida thing? Maybe they landed here and were like, whoa.
Or is it a like, uh-oh, things are getting thin back there. I'm shaving it before it becomes noticeable.
What's Ladero hiding?
Exactly. But if you don't want to have to hide anything, if you don't want to shave your head or put on a baseball cap, you can use 4Hims because they connect you with real doctors, medical-grade solutions to treat hair loss, and provide well-known generic equivalents to name-brand prescriptions to help you keep your hair.
No snake oil. Like, don't be squeezing a snake.
Don't let the snake bite you on the top of the head. Yeah, that's not going to work.
That's not a solution. You'll end up in more trouble than just having thinning hair.
And like, I don't even know. Does snake oil come from like wringing out a snake?
Yeah, you just squeeze it. You squeeze it real hard.
Okay, cool.
You squeeze it real hard. So don't do that. Don't be squeezing snakes.
Like a wet sock.
Don't be buying things from the gas station counter. Instead, get prescription solutions backed by science.
All you have to do is answer a few quick questions. A doctor will review and can prescribe treatment for you, so you can stop worrying about sunblock on that spot of thinning hair or shaving it. But now you're in like the Florida sun, and now you really do have to worry about the sunburn coming through on the top of the dome. Instead, you can get
snakes. Are there snakes in Florida?
Yes, there are. So yes, you don't have to worry about snakes or snake oil.
Don't squeeze alligators as well. Don't squeeze alligators.
Don't do that. Instead, go to Hims, and our listeners can get a trial month of Hims for just $5 today, right now, while supplies last.
See the website for full details and for safety information. I assume the safety information will be like, don't squiz dangerous animals.
Correct.
This would cost hundreds if you went to the doctor or a pharmacy, but go to 4hims.com/total soccer. That's FORHIMS.com/total soccer. One more time, Tyler.
4hims.com/total soccer.
That's where you go. The link will be in the show notes. Thank you to Hims for sponsoring today's show.
I concur. I also would like to get back to listener questions.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm going to go to Ezra Tyler, who asks, what advice do you have for someone trying to start a new female soccer podcast focusing on the NWSL? What content should I have, and who should I target as my audience? First of all, I would like to thank Ezra for actually asking a question as the first sentence of the question, because so often when we do this, we're like, Ezra asks, and then we read a couple statements, and it's like, oh, well, okay, he said that, now he's asking, and then it becomes weird semantics.
So what advice do you have for someone trying to start basically a soccer podcast focused on the NWSL? I mean, I can only answer in terms of what I would like to listen to. I would love some tactical breakdowns of NWSL stuff. I would love someone to tell me what happened in a game, what tactical changes were made, who did what, and why.
Yes. That would be useful. Here's what I would say about that, though. I would encourage Ezra to, this is a thing that you and I have experienced many times, sometimes we fall victim to it ourselves, is you can have the best laid plans of like, I'm going to do a weekly review of every single game that happened, and I'm going to talk about the tactics, and I'm going to talk about who did what and what the standout players were, and that's amazing, and that would be a very useful product. It's a lot of work, and you're watching a lot of games, and, and it's really easy.
You're turning to Matt Doyle.
Yeah, exactly. Or I mean, that's honestly that would be wonderful. Matt Doyle gets paid to talk about soccer. That is great, and you might have that expectation, but the reality is, you're going to do that for like a week or two, and then you're going to be like, I'm going to change the format. I'm going to talk about one game a week. Oh, that's a lot. I'm going to talk about like the individual highlight moments. And so I say all that to say, not to be like to dissuade Ezra from doing this, but to say that I think really spend some time thinking about what format is easiest or is a thing that doable, you want to do that you will have the drive to do. Because if you start out doing a weekly review show and then 3 weeks in you change to like, I'm going to do a player spotlight, you've kind of changed the structure of the show so much so that like if you have people who are in on the first thing, maybe they're not in on the second, and if you keep changing and then you change the schedule.
But we've changed over time, right? We've tweaked our show as we go, and I think it's important to like make little improvements as you go to make things better. But I guess I'm sort of answering.
I'm not saying like you can never change.
Yeah, I'm answering the question I was about to ask really, which is like small tweaks are good, like little improvements, but not like wholesale changes each week.
But I guess what I'm getting at is I think if you start off by doing this grandiose project, look, how many podcasts do we talk about are like, oh, that's an interesting one, and then you go to click on it and it's like last updated 2016, last updated 2015. Like that's what happens is you get really excited about it. It's way more work than people expect for way less reward than people expect. I always go with like the Simpsons Family Guy analogy of like the whole town is listening and now everyone knows. That's not how it works. 20 people are listening maybe. And so like I think the thing that is most manageable or most reflects your passion, Ezra, is the thing you should do. If you love tactics, then I would say pick a game a week and analyze the tactics on that one. If you like the highlight moments or the kind of drama of the game, then do like the top 10 moments in NWSL this week. But I think it's the thing that you most want to do. You're then going to be doing the thing you want to be doing, which is what people want to hear anyway.
All right, so let's get a little creative then and think about what would be like good little formats for an NWSL show. And like the first thing that comes to my head is and is very doable, right? And not like watching every game and doing a tactical analysis of every game that happens that week for all the teams. Something like the top 5 goals in NWSL this weekend is something where you'd have to invest time in watching those goals, right? And really being able to say something insightful about them. Find something in watching those goals that other people who've only like quickly seen them on Twitter or not seen them at all haven't seen. Find something insightful by like the thing we do where you go back a minute or two and watch the build up to the goal. You'll have something to say about it. And NWSL, you can rewatch it on Yahoo and all that and ESPN. If you could do that with the top 5 goals, I think you would have some content there that is accessible for people who haven't even watched the games, because you can just have links to the goals in the show notes. People could watch the goals and then hear your analysis of them, and that's really also good. It's good exposure for the league, right? That they get someone doing that. So that, I think if I had to come up with like a pitch for an NWSL show for someone to do, that's what I would do. And then I'd add to that, sorry, I know I'm talking a long time here, but I think NWSL, it would be easy.
I think you began this by saying, let's come up with some ideas, and then I believe you've just solidified the idea.
Oh, my second idea is also do some occasional player interviews, because I think NWSL is accessible, right? You will have access to players if you contact clubs. They're not these giant, like NWSL teams are not these giant like Juventus style organizations where you can't just like call up and say, hey, can I talk to Dybala? Right? But you can get an NWSL player in an interview, and then you've got to just hone your interview technique. But that would do well.
So that's what I want to focus on that for a moment, though. Because this is my advice, not necessarily just to Ezra, but anybody starting a podcast, anybody who's going to do a thing where I'm going to interview players. It is my biggest advice, it took me a really long time to learn this, and I'm still learning it, I'm still not great at it, is like, know what you want to know, as in you specifically. What is appealing to you? Because I think when I first started...
Like in the interview, like what you want to find out from it?
Yeah, because like I think when I first started doing player interviews, I would be like slightly overawed at times, but then other times it was just like, I don't know what to say. What'd you think of the game? And then like if you aren't asking engaging questions that show that you care and show that you really want to know what's going on, the person you're talking to knows that. And imagine just a normal conversation when I'm like, so Dara, how was your day? You're like, it was good. Day was good. Oh yeah? You have a nice day? Yeah, it was a good day.
Dude, I spent every second with you. You know how my day was.
But like, yeah, true. Very true. But like, it's just like imagine that sort of boring conversation that we've all had before where it's like, what, like, where are we going with this? And now imagine being the player who also feels the pressure to like perform, and like you're not really helping them.
Because most players want to help you out and want to give you good content and want to, you know, they want to like, and they want to have a friendly, fun conversation.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I think going in knowing like I really want to ask Rose Lavelle about like this thing she did in this game, or about like you know how like what she's been doing this season in terms of like cementing her role for the Spirit or whatever. Like those are all good, but just sort of going back to like career highlights or like doing the Chris Farley. Like remember that time you scored that goal? That was great. It was such a good goal. What went through your mind when you scored that goal? I hate that question. Yeah. So like I think like having questions that you yourself want to know, like assume that maybe other people want to know those answers as well.
Yeah, and don't just assume that like getting someone on the show is the end goal. Mm-mm. Like, oh, I've got Carly Lloyd on the show, great. Then you got to remember, people may be drawn in by your Carly Lloyd interview, but then they will judge you based on the quality of that Carly Lloyd interview. Yeah. So just the get is not enough, right? It's what you do with it that counts.
Because like I want to stress this. I agree entirely, and I want to stress that like imagine for a second removing the question about NWSL or like player interviews. Just imagine, Daryl, that I said to you like, hey, later on a person you don't know is going to call you. It's going to be a 15-minute conversation, maybe 20 minutes. It's going to be about like, you know, what you've done as a podcaster. Oh, and it's recorded and people might listen to it. Like, that doesn't sound fun. That sounds like, wait, a stranger's calling me and I have to talk to them, and that's you as a podcaster. If you work in a, like, I don't know, an office job, and someone's like, if you're in HR and some like a stranger's going to call you and talk to you for 10 minutes about HR, you're like, okay, I guess. Like it's
they said I could keep the stapler.
But that's what it is for a player. Like you're being asked about your job, and so now imagine if the questions you got like from working in an office were like, how was the day today? Good, was coffee good? Did you get the spreadsheets done? Like it's not what you would want to talk about. And so know that the players are humans. They're the same. Yep. They don't want to have the same generic conversation. They would like you to ask interesting questions that promote interesting answers.
I've just realized in terms of Ezra's question about like who should I target?
Yeah.
Obviously NWSL fans, if you start an NWSL show and it's of decent quality, you will get NWSL fans because they are not starved, but there's a shortage of content, right? So they'll probably find you and they'll listen. I think the bigger picture, like you can't appeal to all soccer fans, but US women's national team fans, right? I think that a key to promoting the NWSL or any NWSL content is the end goal of a lot of those players is to play for the US women's national team, which is, you know, it's the big prize, right? So I would definitely have a feature on the show about like up-and-coming US women's national team players or who on the roster is doing well, that kind of stuff. So definitely have a USWNT focus to the NWSL coverage.
I agree.
Yeah. Any other ideas for Ezra?
No, I think we've probably I've exhausted all of my opinions on this one. But I would say
I haven't, but it would be annoying if I kept going. You have hours of opinions on how to do a podcast.
I guess my final thing on that one would be just to say that yes, the more NWSL content, the better, because it helps keep like the league in people's minds. It keeps attention on the league, but it also helps you and me. The more stuff there is for us to know about NWSL.
Okay, information we can consume.
Exactly. I am all about that one.
Oh, sorry, I've got two final tips. I mean, one, do it. Two, get a co-host.
Yep.
Don't do it on your own, because it's really hard to just talk one person into a mic and keep it engaging, because you don't have that bouncing back and forth human interaction. So get a co-host.
I would say here, like, I guess full disclosure, I consider Jason Davis a friend. I find that incredibly... Like, I don't know how he does that. I think it's really impressive what he does, like, with his show.
Well, he has loads of guests, right? But yeah, there are definitely segments where it's him talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a skill, and it's taken him, I imagine it's taken him many, many years to develop that muscle and work on it. And now he's got a big muscle that he can flex, but I couldn't do that.
A big talk muscle.
A big talk muscle.
Yes. All right, yes, so thank you to Ezra for that question. Thank you to Jason for doing good things. Daryl, should we do one more question?
Yeah, how about we answer Tom Holt's question?
All right.
Tom Holt asks, is Major League Soccer actually a detriment to the development of American players? Tom asks this because he suspects that having a safe home league to play in prevents some players from challenging themselves in Europe. Jordan Morris, for example, chose to stay in the US, where he hasn't been forced to become a more complete player. Oh, right. This is a contentious question.
It is, and I think that's where I'd like to start. I'm not like necessarily like trying to attack Tom here, but I will say that I think Tom reveals his bias a little bit with this question alone, because if, like, would you ask that same question about Brazil or Argentina or Mexico? Like, I mean, it's because I think there's this idea that American players don't go challenge themselves. I think Jordan Morris is the obvious example. There are certainly others. Like, and I think we talk mostly about players coming back to Major League Soccer too early, rather than like not wanting to leave. Jordan Morris is really one of the main ones I can think of. Can you think of other times a big name player refused to go abroad?
No,
I mean, we always talk about Landon Donovan, but we forget that he went and played for 3 different European teams. They've done it, but I think that's where this question is rooted, is this idea that like Major League Soccer is kind of holding back U.S. soccer. Is I think like at least a little bit where Tom is coming from when he asked this question.
You've got to it's not a detriment because it gives the players a place to start.
Right.
It gives you a place to have your formative years, and then you fly the nest and go to Europe. That's the ideal situation, right? There are always going to be some birds that want to stay in the comfy nest. That's kind of how it works, right? And so, maybe it's a detriment to that player's career, but that doesn't mean MLS is a detriment to the overall development of players just because the occasional player decides that they've got a dog and they want to stay in town, right? And also, I would also double down on the Jordan Morris thing. Mm-hmm. You've got to remember, you can say he hasn't become a more complete player. He's also missed an entire year with a horrible, horrible injury. He was really unlucky in that happening. We don't know if he might have developed more as a player if he hadn't missed a year through injury.
He might have.
There's that element
He might have. But I think there's, for every person that like doesn't want to go out on a Saturday night because it's more comfortable to stay home and then decides to go out and ends up having a really good night, there's a person who stays home and has a just fine night. And I think that like the same
loads on Netflix.
The same apply, well, to some extent. There are other streaming platforms available.
I guess I subscribe to all of them.
Yes.
So
And once The Office is gone,
honestly,
Netflix.
I'm using Netflix as the generic of staying in and streaming things. You know how we keep saying, we'll get an Uber, but we're actually pressing the lift button?
Yes, exactly. True. I'll have a Coke when I'm ordering a Sprite.
Today's show is sponsored by neither of those companies, by the way.
This is correct. We should change that. But so I think there are probably examples of a player who was sort of forced into going abroad, not like human trafficking wise, but just sort of like it wasn't necessarily what they wanted to do. They were comfortable playing for their local club team, but they went and did it, and there was success. But for every one of those, there's Landon Donovan, who was kind of forced into a situation that didn't really suit him or wasn't the right time or the right place.
Situation.
Yeah, and even Bayern Munich. I think that wasn't the best situation. It was, by all accounts, it was like Jurgen Klinsmann saying, like, that's a guy I want to coach. And we know now that Jurgen Klinsmann, not the best coach. And so, like, I think...
Not the best friend to Landon Donovan either.
Also that. There is
very unhelpful in Donovan's career when you look back.
There is that sort of narrative, right? That like that is what started the souring of that relationship. Is that Klinsmann was like Donovan is the guy, and when he wasn't, it was sort of like I put my reputation on you.
Yeah,
that didn't come to fruition. Now I don't like you as much anymore.
Now Philip Lahm says mean things about me.
Exactly. So I say all that just to say that like I think there's some people who probably won't develop as much as they probably could have. I do think Jordan Morris is one of those. But I also think that like. We're in a weird situation, and it's frustrating, but it is my opinion that the United States is not nearly as deep as I think you and I thought they were, even like a year or two ago.
Philosophically?
No, in terms of the player
talent,
depth.
Yeah.
And
not to get into a whole debate about it, I think there's a massive reservoir of youth talent, but we're still a few years from that coming to the surface.
But my point is that, so like, I think that if we were a bit deeper, Jordan Morris probably doesn't play. Like, I think he probably isn't playing for the national team right now. And I think it's a weird situation of...
so we're worried about him where we wouldn't be if there was more talent.
Exactly. And so I think that, like, there's an argument that, like, a player who doesn't really want to push themselves and be that, like, next level performer probably ends up not being that next level performer. Like, I think you have to have that drive. I say that for me personally. Like, when I went to college, it is not the same thing. I get that. But, like, I went to college, I wasn't really into soccer. I kept playing it, but it wasn't, like, a thing I wanted to do. It was a thing I had to do.
Oh,
and
really?
it showed. Yeah. Like, it was just, like, I think it was probably the first time that I wasn't very, as like, better than everybody. And it was sort of like, what? Hold on now. This isn't as fun. I liked it when I could dribble past everybody. Suddenly, this is very challenging. And, like...
It's this tracking back nonsense asking me to do.
And I think that happens. But it's also why I don't play for the national team, is because if you don't have that motivation to be like, no, I'm beating everybody. It's honestly, it's why Bobby Warshaw, I think, was a successsul pro, because Bobby wants to be the best at what he does.
Yeah.
And you have to have that motivation. And if you
even playing pickup.
Exactly. Exactly. So I think that Major League Soccer, all of that is to say that I think Major League Soccer gives those types of players a way to get their feet wet.
Yeah.
It's the kiddie pool to get used to, and I don't mean that in even like a pejorative or negative way. I just mean it's like a way for people to get their first start. It's a place for Paxton Pomacall to get 1,000 professional minutes playing against seasoned pros and turn the heads of people in Europe, and then you go to a bigger club if he wants to do that, and if he does, then he pushes himself.
And then an even more extreme example, for every Jordan Morris who maybe stayed too long, or a Michael Bradley who came home too soon, there are guys like Weston McKennie and Chris Richards who go through an MLS infrastructure of a development academy, but don't even set foot in the league. They just leave straight away, right? They go to Schalke or to Bayern Munich, right? Yeah. So overall, so the answer to Tom's question is no. MLS is not actually a detriment to the development of American players, because if it didn't exist, there'd be far few players that are even getting developed at all.
I agree. Yeah. My final point on this, though, it's a slightly abstract one, but it's a thing that I've thought a lot about and like never had like the opportunity to discuss. Is this idea that like I think it's worth remembering that like the best way I can explain this is like no one thinks about you as much as you think about you, and so I say that to say like we look at.
I want to tell this to everybody at parties.
It's very true. Yeah. It's also worth remembering no one remembers you the way you remember you.
Yes.
So that when you're like, oh, that time in high school when I was a jerk, I'm sure everyone remembers it. Think about how often you're remembering stuff from high school, and it's rarely like that person spited me. It's always like, oh, that time I was embarrassing. No one's remembering you. All that is to say that like when we look at U.S. rosters, I think a lot of the time we look at them. Like, say we're going to a World Cup, and of the 23, 12 play in Major League Soccer. And I think there's this automatic reaction of like, ugh, it's 12 MLS guys. Like, gosh, we're so reliant on MLS. That's so bad. Look at how often other national teams have, like, even Brazil will have, like, 4 guys playing in Brazil. Spain, Germany, England, a little bit different because they're very good. Like, but, like, Czech teams.
And it's a lot of, like, with Brazil, it's, like, either up-and-comers or guys who are, like, 32 and decided, hey, I want to go back and after my successful European career, I want to have a last couple of years at Corinthians.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But Czech teams have it. Croatian teams have it. Like Bosnia, Turkey, that's a thing. Korea, Japan, they all do this. They have like a lot of domestic-based players.
England, very much so.
Yeah, true. But I'm saying there's a difference between those top tier teams.
Yeah, I know.
But I think it's worth remembering that like we see that as like, oh man, all these guys are playing in the Turkish league. But it's like, because they're Turkish. Like
Mexico don't worry about it.
No, they don't. But I think it's just a thing of like they're doing the same thing, but because they're different. It's the Jim Gaffigan joke about like he sees a little kid in France speaking French, and he's like, that kid is a genius. that 4-year-old can speak French, and it's like it's a thing where like it's like flip it around, and it's like like. Oh my gosh, they're all playing in like the Turkish league. It's like, they live in Turkey. Oh, they're playing in the Japanese league. It's this foreign league. It's like, they live in Japan. Like they're Japanese. Like other national teams do that. It's just because we live in the United States, so we see it as like, oh, we have too many MLS players. like it's whereas other countries I think are like, oh man, we've got a bunch of MLS players. That's great. We're doing awesome.
I think I hear the sound of housekeeping coming to fine us for overstaying our welcome.
I believe you're correct, yes.
Here in room 417. So we should definitely say au revoir and wrap this up.
Let's do it.
I'm as good as a 4-year-old.
There we go. You're so smart.
So if you want to ask us a question, the link is, or the URL is totalsoccershow.com/questions. If you want to listen to a great soccer explainer, a whole new show with 10 episodes, please go and find Soccer 101. It is available anywhere you get podcasts. I know because I spent days making sure it was submitted to every possible listing you can find.
I would like to add one more thing about Soccer 101 because I have not said this like publicly. I added it to the show notes, but if you are interested in, if you like the theme music, if you don't, then great, be quiet. If you like it, then you can find more. The artist is Aerialist, Aerialist, I believe it is. Yep. There's a Bandcamp page. It's a friend of mine who I used to work for at a bar in Falls Church in Northern Virginia. He's.
Can we shout out Spacebar? I love the Spacebar.
Of course you can.
Get the tater tots.
Larry Hoffman is his name. Aerialist is his like Bandcamp page, but you can find lots of music there. So shout out to Larry.
All right, shout out.
Shout out to Spacebar. That part's great.
Shout out to Larry and Spacebar, and shout out to everybody who has listened to Soccer 101. If you haven't done so yet, please get on the bandwagon. All right, Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Oh, 3 more things. No, I'm good. Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening, and we will talk to you again soon.